Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hopefully you're managing the heat wave like I have the best of my abilities. I'll make a separate video on that, and hopefully you had a great Canada Day or want to have a great Independence Day, depending on where you're watching this video from. But in this video, I'm actually going to talk a little NLL Lacrosse with the Calgary Roughnecks, who got picked by the Panther City Lacrosse team, the new team that's going to start in Fort Worth, Texas for the 2021-22 season. I'll recap the expansion draft as a whole. And there's some other news I'll touch on before I get to recapping the expansion draft on who's going to the Panther City Lacrosse team. That one team is relocating from New England to Albany, so that team out in the East Coast is going to be from the New England Black Wolves to the Albany FireWolves. And then actually there's going to be a 15th team, because Panther City Lacrosse, that team's going to be based in Fort Worth, Texas, will be team number 14 that will start this upcoming season. But there actually is going to be a 15th team based out of Vegas, as I'll find the story right here, that there actually is going to be a star-studded ownership group that is going to own the 15th team. That this team in Las Vegas will start operations in the 2022-23 season, so the season after this upcoming season. It's going to be owned by the great one and Wayne Gretzky, Dustin Johnson, the PGA golfer, Steve Nash, the best Canadian point guard in NBA history, as well as Joe Tsai, based out of Las Vegas, will be all co-owners of this 15th team in the NLL. So you're going to start seeing some more professional sports based in Las Vegas. And this team will start playing at the Michelob Arena, not in the T-Mobile Center where the Golden Knights play. So this team will start in 2022-23. I guess this arena is near the MGM Resorts International Michelob Ultra Arena. So that is going to be some other NLL news I'll touch upon. But let's get into the actual expansion draft itself and how it affected the Calgary Roughnecks. Well, first, actually, let's go over who the Calgary Roughnecks actually protected. I was surprised there was one player that was left off, but he was an unrestricted free agent, and I think there were some rules about the expansion draft, kind of similar to what we're going to do, and I'll recap the expansion draft when it comes to the Seattle Kraken. But each team got to protect 11 players, 5 goalies, or 5 forwards, 5 defensemen, and a goalie. So the players that the Calgary Roughnecks got to protect was defenseman Reese Callies, forward Tanner Cook, defenseman Zach Currier, goaltender Christian Del Bianco, forward Curtis and Hayden Dixon, and Jesse King, and then defenseman Harrison McToska, forward Tyler Pace, and defenseman Eli Salama and Shane Simpson. So those are all the players that were protected by the Calgary Roughnecks, but surprisingly, Dane Dobbie was left unprotected, but he is an unrestricted free agent as well. So that's who the Calgary Roughnecks protected ahead of these expansion draft. So now if we actually talk about the expansion draft itself and who is going to Fort Worth, Texas, and we'll recap every player that got claimed by their respective teams. Well, the first pick went to the Saskatchewan, from the Saskatchewan Rush, and his name is Matt Hosek, the right defenseman. So he is going to the Panther City Lacrosse from the Saskatchewan Rush. And then the Albany FireWolves, which that team used to be the New England Black Wolves, the second pick, I should say. It was Charlie Kitchen, right forward. So from Albany to Panther City. And then the third selection comes from the Philadelphia Wings. It was right defenseman Liam Barnes, so I'm from Philadelphia to Panther City. And then the fourth selection was from the New York City Riptide, was right forward Connor Kelly. Then the fifth pick, this one went from the San Diego Seals. This was the goaltender Nick Delmaud. And then the sixth pick was the Calgary Roughneck player that got claimed. Actually, it was right forward Patrick Dodds, and actually he was selected 21st overall last season in the last expansion draft, so he never actually got to play for the Calgary Roughnecks because the 2021 season was cancelled, so Patrick Dodds was the player that got claimed from the Calgary Roughnecks to the Panther City Lacrosse. To continue on the expansion draft, the 7th selection, this came from the Vancouver Warriors, left defenseman Sam Clare. And then the 8th selection was from the Buffalo Bandits and Liam Hedden, the right defenseman. And then from the Rochester Nighthawks for the 9th selection was Phil Caputo, the right forward. And then the 10th selection, this came from the Halifax Thunderbirds, left forward Ryan Bench. And then the 11th selection, this was a goaltender from the Georgia Swarm in Kevin Ollerman. And then the 12th selection from the Colorado Mammoth, left forward, I think this is the biggest name that Panther City Lacrosse claimed, was Chris Rordo, left forward. Then the last selection for the Panther City Lacrosse came from the Toronto Rock and left defenseman Scott Dominey. So those are the players that are going to the Panther City Lacrosse new team that's going to be based out of Fort Worth, Texas for this upcoming season. There was also some trades that happened that also we'll talk about. That there's always some trades that happens in a deal for a player to not be selected or a player to select instead. There were 4 trades that Panther City made. None of them that involved the Calgary Roughnecks, but the first trade was they traded a second-round selection in the 2022 draft to the Toronto Rock in exchange for Taylor Stewart and their second-round selection in the 21 draft. So I'll put the links in the description below on the story that I touched upon. And then ultimately, one of the players that they selected got traded as they trade Scott Dominey to the New York Riptide in exchange for Dawson Deedy. And then another player that was picked that got traded, and the third pick was they trade Chris Riddle back to the Colorado Mammoth in exchange for Will Malcolm and Jordan Trottier. So yeah, both these players that got picked obviously got traded back to their team. And then the 4th trade, the Panther City Lacrosse, they traded their first-round selection in the 2023 draft. That went to the Georgia Swarm in exchange for Connor Sellers and the 11th round pick in the 2021 entry draft. So that's just the gist of the NLL Expansion Draft for the Panther City Lacrosse, and just touch upon some off-season NLL news in terms of New England Black Wolves are moving to Albany, so they're still kind of staying in the same area. So there'll be a team in Albany, New York. That'll be the Albany FireWolves, and then the Panther City Lacrosse is going to start playing this upcoming season. And then the 15th team in Las Vegas. They have not picked out a team name just yet, but have a star-studded ownership group based on the big names that are owning the team. But that team will start playing for the 2022-23 season in Las Vegas, so definitely be intriguing. Maybe winter road trips. If you can afford it as a Calgary Roughnecks fans to leave the winter to go catch the Roughnecks, like you'd say in San Diego, Las Vegas, or even in Fort Worth, outside where the Dallas Fort Worth there. So I just say, what do you think of the Panther City Lacrosse, their picks in the expansion draft? And I'm going to say, hopefully we'll have a season in 2021-22, but it sounds like we are slowly getting there, but you just never know. That's what we've definitely been finding out the last year and a half with this pandemic during COVID-19, but I'm definitely hoping I'll be back in the stands in the Rough House for the Calgary Roughnecks this winter to watch the Panther City Lacrosse, for example, and get back into started season 3 for my Calgary Roughnecks this month. So anyways, like I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, recapping games and stories. And in this case, we talked about the NLL and the Calgary Roughnecks. But other content that I do on my YouTube channel is I do have some personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I'll t-shirt for sure, so I'm on the road or sport, and I've been doing a lot more vlogging on the go, especially during this off season between waiting for hockey season to end and the CFL season to begin. So if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, you just make sure you hit like and subscribe. I also have my other social links down in the description below. So I'm going to say, go Next Go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And I think the next video I'm going to be talking about this heat wave. Wow, it's definitely been incredible. I'll talk about that in a separate video. So I'll see you then.